Good evening, wherever you're at. What if I told you the hidden problem driving high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, belly fat, PCOS, ED, all sorts of health conditions that we're told are chronic, really were just a symptom of a root cause that nobody's talking about? Most doctors never bring it up and it's never discussed. They only focus on what is it that you're dealing with and what tic tac, if you will, that they can write on a little piece of paper to give you to manage the symptoms. There isn't discussion about how you can improve the situation related to the symptoms, related to diet, exercise, simple things that can change things. And that is something that's always frustrated me. And so today I want to talk to you about what that underlying cause is to most chronic disease. In fact, Dr. Benjamin Bikman, the author of Why We Get Sick, states that the hidden epidemic to most chronic disease, and what it is in this book, Why We Get Sick. I dug into that after I was introduced to an all-natural protocol that I noticed my son had this drink on his desk for a week or so. And when I finally asked him what it was, and he told me, I was kind of frustrated with him, to be honest with you, because at the time I was 57, 30, 35 pounds overweight, had chronic fatigue, high blood pressure, pre-diabetic, high cholesterol, poor sleep, skin tags, the list goes on and on. And after 5 days on that drink that he shared with me after I asked him what he was drinking, I realized I hadn't gone to Starbucks, which I had done every single morning for 7.5 years to get an incredibly sugary caramel macchiato, which I'm embarrassed to admit. But then I would come home because I would go very early in the morning. Sometimes my sleep was so poor, I'd be waiting for them to open at 5 to go because I was getting up literally 2, sometimes 4 times a night, but 2 to 3 consistently just to go to the bathroom. And that is frustrating as all hell. So I started that protocol, and on the 5th day, I realized I hadn't gone to Starbucks and I hadn't stopped on my way to my office to get a Dr. Pepper. And that shocked me because I hadn't gone into this when I started this simple protocol. In fact, it's right here. I'm drinking it today. I drink it every day. I hadn't thought, well, I'm going to improve what I eat. I'm going to cut back or eliminate this or that. None of that stuff was in my thought process. I simply just started drinking this daily protocol. And what happened after 5 days blew my mind when I realized I hadn't gone to Starbucks. I hadn't stopped and got a Dr. Pepper. My sugar cravings literally disappeared within 24 hours of taking that drink. Because I started it one morning the next day after he told me about it. And then the next day I didn't go to Starbucks. So I thought, I got to learn more about this. And that's when I bought this book, Why We Get Sick, and started to learn about what Dr. Bikman says is the hidden cause to the epidemic behind most chronic disease. Because I had been to my doctor and he had given me statins, gave me lisinopril for high blood pressure. And in fact, when I started this protocol, I was only 3 weeks into it. I'd been on it for 3 weeks when I had an annual physical scheduled. And I don't like going to the doctor unless it's an absolute emergency. But out of respect for this doctor, because he's a family friend and my wife had worked at that office as a nurse for 30 years, I went. And to be honest with you, also, I had Crohn's disease for 16 years. They tell us that's chronic, but I have been in remission because I don't talk like it's chronic, just like I don't talk addiction as, I'm always an addict or always an alcoholic. I don't believe that. Language is incredibly powerful. And so I figured, better than having problems, I'll just go to the checkup and let him do his thing. And he asked me about the medications I was on, and I hadn't been taking them literally for the last year because I was not going to keep putting things in my body that I knew were only masking symptoms and most often causing problems down the road, different problems. And so I was taking a risk, I guess, because yes, I should have started doing things myself to improve my health, lose weight, improve my diet, exercise. But to be honest with you, I've never enjoyed exercise. Doesn't matter what kind. It's just something I've always hated. I mean, I know when I do it, I feel better. I'm not going to deny that. There's no doubt about it. And I do a little bit, but I'm not a gym rat. I don't enjoy doing that. I think it's important to walk and do some mild stuff like that for sure. But anyway, so I go to this appointment, and when I tell him I'm not taking any medications, he pulls up some information on his computer, and he then starts to tell me that I'm like, I can't remember the numbers exactly, but these will be within 3 or 4 points, 2 or 3 points maybe. I was 16% more likely to have a stroke if I didn't take the medication. And that if I took it, I only had about a 6% chance. And he thought I was nuts that I wouldn't do that. And because I was new to this protocol, and I had it with me, in fact, this bottle, I said, no, I know this protocol works. And I believe it's going to work for me just like it has hundreds of others who I've talked to and listened to their stories because they were just mind-blowing. Anyway, so I left, and 3 months later, I checked my blood pressure and followed up and had blood tests, and everything had changed. My blood pressure had been running 166 over 116. It was now 120 over 74, that's what it is currently, give or take a few points. Cholesterol's back to normal. I lost 30 pounds. My cravings, as I mentioned, disappeared. My sleep has improved a ton. I might get up once in the night. I probably have 2 or 3 nights that I sleep through the night. Probably get up once instead of 2 to 4 times. That's a big deal. And I feel a whole lot better. I mean, I have consistent energy all day long, and that was something I really hated because by the afternoon I was just beat. And that used to frustrate the heck out of me, especially in the evenings after I got home from work and would eat dinner. I was definitely done. And so if my grandkids came over, I just didn't have the energy to play with them. I'd forced myself to a little bit, but not much. And that I hated that. Well, that all changed. So when I started asking different questions instead of asking what medications treats this, I decided to ask the question, what is it that's causing all this? And that's where that book came into play and really helped me understand it. Did you know that high blood pressure, high blood sugar, belly fat, high triglycerides, fatty liver, PCOS, ED, cravings, diabetes, gut health, brain fog, low energy, so many other conditions are often because of insulin resistance. When you become insulin resistant, your body is not functioning the way it's supposed to. Your cells are locked down, not allowing the glucose, which the insulin moves through your bloodstream, into your cells. They then get stored as fat, and you don't burn fat for energy. You're burning carbs and sugar, and that's what causes insulin resistance. So we need to become insulin sensitive. And once we become insulin sensitive, that starts to change everything. So as I looked more into this drink, I noticed it had 20 plus clinical studies, one of them from the Cleveland Clinic. At the time, it was the #1 cardiovascular hospital in the world. I believe it's #2 now. University of Sydney, Brigham Young University, UNLV, Stanford, and so many others. And The product's all natural. It's got patents. In fact, it was originally created, one part of the protocol, there is two parts, by Rexall Drugs. Many of you may know of Rexall Drugs. They were huge back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. On every corner, there was a drugstore, it seemed like, in every city. So this isn't something new. But as they worked and put these two products together, they realized that this yerba mate-based tea that has 300 times the chlorogenic acid as a cup of coffee and this 7-fiber matrix together actually reverse insulin resistance. And that's why I had such a dramatic change to my, quote, chronic health problems. In fact, here's a quick image of my before and after. You can see that's quite a difference. And that happened without any diet or any exercise. It's literally just taking this protocol and it did its thing. I mean, to have sugar cravings disappear was staggering to me. But let's take a look at what insulin resistance has an effect on and the things it can cause. Now, am I anti-medication? No. Do I believe there are situations and times that there might be a need? Certainly. But I think we need to educate ourselves and ask better questions, as I said, and understand what is the cause. Because if not, what's the point? Why should we buy into the fact that when we have a problem, that we have to join the membership club for life every single month to go pick up our membership and what's included in that membership, a bunch of different Tic Tacs, and take those to try to keep our symptoms in check? I mean, that makes no sense. I believe that our bodies were created by a divine creator. You can call what you will, God, energy, source, it doesn't matter. But the body is a powerful thing. It can heal itself when it's working properly. Now, I'm not going to get off in the weeds and talk about all the reasons why I believe we as Americans are so sick, but 93% of Americans have some form of insulin resistance, and most people don't even know it. Let's see if I can get the right screen so you can see that best. That's not the one. We're going to have to go with that one. So you can see insulin resistance, the symptoms and conditions. I mean, short term, belly fat, like I mentioned, unexplained weight gain, tired after eating, low energy, fatigue, low endurance. Think about how you feel throughout the day. Do you crave things? Do you feel like you have to eat other than really 2 meals a day is really all we need? In fact, 60 plus years ago, they really only had a meal a day. If you have dark skin patches on the neck, underarms, elbows, knuckles, that's a form of insulin resistance. If you have, if you're moody or irritable, anxiety and depression can be tied to it as well. Brain fog, memory issues. I know several people used to have constant migraines who no longer do. Sleep problems, and of course, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and the list goes on and on. You can see those have been proven to dramatically improve or totally go away when your body becomes insulin sensitive again. So it's a huge problem. I mean, PCOS and ED, those are huge ones as well that have improved. Anything that ends in itis, bronchitis, dermatitis, arthritis, rheumatoiditis, all the different arthritis. Inflammation. Inflammation is a driver behind a lot of problems. IBS, UTI infections, non-alcoholic fatty liver. Type 2 diabetes is not genetic. If you're type 2 diabetic and listening to this, you do not have to be on meds forever. That is just simply not the case. So if you focus on what the problem is and you can really fix the root cause, then everything should change. So I want to have you listen real quick to Jim. He's got quite a story and he had all sorts of problems. So let's take a listen to what Jim has to say and how things changed for him.
I've been a type 2 diabetic for 15 years. I was overweight for 25 years. I was an eating machine. I would hit the refrigerator, eat something. An hour later, eat something. My doctor wanted to put me on another med. He wanted to put me on a statin. And that was the line in the sand for me. I was like, no, I'm already on enough meds because of the metformin I was on. Not to mention 10 milligrams of lisinopril for high blood pressure. I'd already been to every vitamin store in the world looking for supplements. And here I am, 120 pounds later. I went from an A1C of 9.2 to 6.2 in 3 months. Now I'm at a 5.4. Cholesterol is down. It has changed my life. The energy that I have is incredible. I feel better than when I was 40. This is not something that you keep for yourself. This is something you share with your family. You share with your friends. Because you cannot understand the quality of life you'll gain by returning yourself back to good metabolic health. Give yourself the 90.
That's quite amazing, isn't it? I mean, come on. Jim had a ton of problems. I've got one lady, Sherry, who was on 17 medications, is no longer on medications. Hey, Jimmy, good to see you. Appreciate you being here. Hey, Mike, what's up? If you're dealing with any of the issues that I've addressed, put the number in the comments of the things that I've talked about that maybe you're experiencing, 1 through however many. You know, my situation, I had six different things that changed once I started reversing my insulin resistance. And again, like I said, that really changed everything. Once I learned about insulin resistance, changed a few things. I started hydrating first thing in the morning. And then a big thing is adding protein or fiber before your meals. And that's why this one packet is so important, because it's a 7 fiber matrix. Because with the way food is processed today, everything, all the fiber is stripped out of everything. I mean, so many things that we believe are good for us. For example, an orange juice, an apple juice. If you do your little bit of research, you realize you're drinking nothing but straight sugar. It's absolutely crazy. Rice, the way it's processed, everything's stripped out. There's hardly any fiber left. It's insane what has happened to the food in America once everything went processed. Everything's become about convenience. And it is difficult to eat healthy. I'm the first one to admit it. It's not easy at all. That's why we need to give our bodies something to help fight off the things that can do so much damage. Another huge thing that's really important to get the body to start to work properly is intermittent fasting. Now, I know that was something that I always hated to hear. I had a hard time doing that. But once I started this protocol, it made it almost like a breeze to go for 16 hours. Once I had dinner, that was it. Because of the way this protocol works, I didn't have cravings, and I wasn't so fatigued like I used to be that I'd be sitting on the couch the rest of the night. Because I think a lot of times we're eating out of boredom. You know, if you're sitting on the couch most of the evening watching TV or really doing nothing, then it's real easy. I've always said an idle mind is the devil's playground, whether that's related to food or anything else. And so once I started that, stop eating after dinner, it was easy to then, of course, not snack or anything till I went to bed. And then when I got up, I've never been a big breakfast person really anyway. And so if I started at 6, then really all I had to do is go till 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning before I ate anything. And at that point, I usually would just be fine until I had lunch. So it was really never a problem. So with this protocol, it makes it simple to do that, which allows your body then to reset and start to get itself into that fat burning state. So it starts using fat for fuel. Because insulin is the lowest in the morning, obviously. But as soon as you eat something, it spikes that insulin. And as we continue to snack and then eat throughout the day, your insulin's just going up and down and up and down. And what this does is it really stabilizes things. So there's a lot less peaks and valleys. It's a much smoother line, not smooth, but it's much lower because it's controlling those spikes. So this is something that really is beneficial. Another thing that's really huge is just, it's simple too. After your meals, try to walk, even if it's just 10 or 15 minutes. That's going to have a huge impact. But as I mentioned, fiber and protein first before you eat. That'll have a big impact. Some of the biggest lessons I've learned are fat isn't always the problem. Sugar isn't the whole story. Insulin matters. Insulin's a hormone. It's important. But when we're insulin resistant, it's forcing the pancreas to push out more and more insulin. And then it's got nowhere to go into the cells. So the stress is a huge thing that raises glucose as well. Sleep. But the small daily habits beat extreme diets and exercise over every time. And it's really the small habits that have an impact long term. But because we live in such a convenient society and we've been conditioned, everything is now. If we do something every day and don't see results for a few days, we quit. That's gotten to be human nature in the society we're living in. Sad to say, but that's the truth. That's why I have a cupboard behind me full of other supplements and products that I've bought over the years. And I'll be honest, some of them are probably good and probably quality. But because I didn't feel or see results with them, I didn't continue to stay on them, or certainly didn't purchase it the second or third month. But when you have a protocol that literally impacts people, at least the way they feel typically, 24 to 48 hours from an energy standpoint. And if you're overweight and looking to lose weight, and you can start seeing your eating patterns different, your cravings dropped, and you start to see the weight slowly coming off, it's pretty easy to stick with it at that point. So again, statins, a lot of medications, they are necessary. Hey Jim, what supplements do you currently use? Anybody comment on supplements you're currently using and what results you've had and how long it took? I hope so far this conversation has made you realize that treating symptoms instead of asking what's causing them is more important. And if anyone's interested in the protocol I use, I'm happy to share that. You can send me a DM, or you can check out my bio. You can find information there to learn more about the protocol. Okay, I've heard of that, Jim. Root. I actually bought some of that. It's been years, 3 or 4 years, and I don't recall what it was supposed to do to help, but I've used that. Two months and you're not sure what it's done. Depending on what it's for, it may require a blood test for you to see if there's been an improvement or not. Now, of course, if you get blood tests before and know where you're at, and then blood tests 60 to 90 days later, like I did, you can definitely see an improvement. But obviously, I felt and noticed an improvement to other issues besides that. But it's pretty powerful when you can find something that literally does have a positive impact on. I mean, I've helped hundreds of people, and I'll be honest, probably 99 out of 10 people have had amazing results. Everybody's body's different, and I'm not making any guarantees here. I can't do that, nor will I. All I can do is share with you what I've seen and experienced myself, and it's truly remarkable. Okay, hey Tom, what have you experienced? So I'm going to check something real quick to make sure this is working. You struggled with weight, done calorie deficit, just basically really cut back on the calories and exercise and still struggling. I definitely understand that, know how that works. You should definitely try this out again. Don't take my word for it. You can do some research and listen to hundreds of other people. If you just check out my bio, you can find the information to go to that and see what they have to say, and decide if it's the right fit for you. The thing that's awesome, it's pretty crazy, and I don't think any company does this. And if they do, that tells you a lot about what they know this product does, because the company behind this product has a 90-day money-back guarantee. That's really unheard of. So that's pretty phenomenal. Well, that explains it. I appreciate y'all being here. Anybody have any specific comments or questions that I can answer? Good question. What is in the product? As I mentioned, one of them is an yerba mate based tea, and they've got patented processes. They grow all their own yerba mate and process it all themselves. I've looked and looked over the last 18 months, and I cannot find anything close to the quality and potency, if you will, of this yerba mate. And then obviously the fiber matrix, it is patented, so nobody can mess with it, or even there's really no one that competes with it. It's huge for gut health, and if you understand the really tie between the gut and the brain and how important that is, having good gut health makes a big difference in overall health. Okay, well, I appreciate y'all being here, and look forward to doing this again soon. If you have any questions, again, feel free to send me a message. Best way to get some additional information about these things is just check out, let me see if I've got it here. You can check it out here. You can see in my bio. If you just click right there, pretty much on any social platform, you'll find that information. Or just feel free to send me a direct message as well. But yeah, check it out. And then once you understand more about it, feel free to send me a message. Okay, y'all.